Hi, I'm going to be demonstrating our sensory-based activity for George. This is a visual motor activity with tactile input added in there to work on tolerating different textures from a tactile perspective. It's also going to work on grading fine motor movements, so some motor planning and really fine motor, really precise grading and pressure to help him with some of the skills behind his handwriting difficulties, and then also that near far and adjusting the eyes from looking down at a working surface up to a surface to be copying from to imitate skills he needs for the classroom. So this is going to be a design copy activity. I have my design here that George is going to copy. So it's my little smiley face with a hat. He is going to be given a blank grid with all the circles that are empty. And then he is also going to be given a pencil so that he can initially go through and mark the areas that need to be filled ahead of time. This way, when he's working with the different tactile materials he's going to be presented with, he doesn't have to also be figuring out where the dots go. That part's going to be done so it's not too overwhelming when he's feeling the different textures. So I went ahead and pre-marked mine with my pencil, so I had to look up at my design. I have it at a pretty near point since this would be our first session with George, and then I also have my working surface slanted upward on this binder that I'm using as a slant board to bring it up a little bit closer to his face and also promote some wrist extension with when he's doing the fine motor part of the activity. So after going through and figuring out all the dots that need to be filled, I have the materials he's going to fill them with. So I've got some Play-Doh. The Play-Doh you apply to the circles by taking off a little piece, a very little piece, and then you push. So you really have some finger isolation and you really have to use the strength and precision in those muscles to push it on the paper enough that it kind of smears and fills the whole circle. And then you can kind of see how it fills the circle, and it'll stay on that paper pretty well. I've got, for some of the little bit of messier materials that we have, I already have some wipes. I have dry paper towels, wet paper towels, and then I also have Q-tips for if he's not able to tolerate some of the sensations. So our next choice is paint. So the idea is just with the finger, and to go as gently as possible and just not make it all messy, but fill up the dot kind of as neatly as you can there. So then I'm gonna wipe my finger off, and then the last material is kind of the trickiest one, I think. So it's glue. So you have to apply the glue to the spot that you want. And then I have some sand. So this is just black craft sand. So having these different materials, not only is he getting to feel the different textures, but it also lends to a little bit of problem solving on his part, because like right now I kind of have a problem. I want to put my sand onto my dot, but I'm gonna get it all messy because it's gonna stick to my finger that's already covered in glue. So I have the problem solving to know I'm gonna need to wipe off my finger before I go back in and grab my sand, and then I have to do a real fine little pinch and sprinkle the sand right on there. Now you'd probably want to have like a tablecloth also, because some of the sand is gonna come off, but if you really sprinkle it on nice and close to where you put the glue, it actually stays on pretty well, and you can see there where it fills the dot pretty well. So the idea is for him to replicate this whole design on the paper. He's allowed to use the colors that he wants, arrange it how he wants. The only thing that I'm gonna ask him to do is to fill at least 3 dots with each one of the materials. So that way he's getting to experience some of them. If he doesn't like one and it bothers him, he either can choose to, if it's something he still wants to use, like the paint, he could use the Q-tip, or let's say he likes the sand but putting the glue on with his finger bothers him. We're gonna have him hopefully maybe try one with his finger so he still gets that experience and is learning to build that tolerance, but then I'm gonna let him use the Q-tip for the rest of them. There's several ways to grade this activity. You could mix in different textures. These are just 3 options that I'm using, the Play-Doh, the paint, and the sand, but you could add a lot of different textures. You can make a really cool puffy paint by mixing glue and shaving cream. You could use glitter glue. There's a lot of different things you could use to change this activity and add different textures and different colors, things like that. What I like about it too is that it can be graded. Like I said, right now, I would want to give it to him at a nice near point. We're still working on those skills, but as they get better, it could be up on a wall to more closely imitate a classroom. Also, I can put him in a different position. If at this point in my session, I feel like George is tired and needs the support of just a regular seat, I may just let him do this in a regular seated position with a nice supportive chair. But if I want to add some more proprioception, some more core stability, I can put him on a ball. I can even put him laying on his belly on the floor. If this was more at the beginning of the session, I might want that. Add some upper body strengthening by him having to hold himself up. And I can also take away the step of putting in the pencil markings first and having him just go ahead and have to deal with it. If he makes a mistake, oh well, we'll do our best to fix it, but you need to take the time to try not to make a mistake. So I can kind of grade this activity up or down in several ways and kind of tease out the skill that I want to work on. If I really want to work on frustration tolerance and tolerating errors, I might choose to take the pencil part away. If I really want to work on the visual skill, I might put the model a little further away. So I can choose what I want to work on and kind of adapt the activity to focus on that. I also, like I mentioned earlier, in getting to see his problem solving, I get to see his planning too. Not just motor planning, but just his general sequencing and kind of organizational skills. Like I said, if I was going to do this, I would probably say, well, I want to fill all my ones that I'm going to fill with sand all at once, so I don't have to keep going back and wiping my hand off and going back and forth a million times. And then I'm going to do all my ones with paint and then finish with all my ones with Play-Doh. Do each one at a time. George might end up getting frustrated because he's constantly having to wipe his hands, and it gives us an opportunity to teach that problem solving by saying, hang on, let's think about this. How could we do this a little easier, or is there a way we could do it where we don't have to wipe our hands so much? So there's a lot of opportunities to work on different skills, and then the sensory piece is that tactile, learning to tolerate those different sensations, working on that tactile defensiveness a little bit, and then also a little bit of impulsivity, control, and having to follow rules by giving him that suggestion that he has to use each color in at least 3 circles. So there's a lot of different areas it covers. I would say this is more of a sensory motor activity. It's not quite as self-guided as a true SI activity. We're kind of giving him structure and those instructions for what to do, but incorporating the sensory component in there. So that is the activity, and I hope you like it.